Hey everyone and welcome. We are Next Level Business Advisors and this is Business Stories of Success. If you want to break through and achieve your own business success by learning from other successful business owners, you're in the right channel. For more of our content, make sure you click subscribe and don't forget the bell icon so you're the first to be notified when new videos are added. Enjoy today's video.
Hello, hello, hello. You're with Marc Adams at Next Level Business Advisors, and I'm with Leslie Urbas at Fit and Fabulous Family Nutrition. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you for giving us some time. How's the weather in Florida today?
Today it's actually really nice. It got up to like 70 again. It's been kind of cold, like not
Ooh.
getting past 62, which is not okay.
Oh, jelly, jelly, 70. Yes. So today it was a good warm day up here. 48 is where we at currently. So I can't say I can't say that it's not been a warm day. Anyway, uh again, I'm glad to have you. I wanted you to jump right in and tell us a little bit about yourself and your business, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course. So I am Leslie, as you said. I am a dietitian and a personal trainer. I'm a military wife and a mom to two very young kids, 3 and 1. So my hands are normally full, and that's okay. Let's see what else. That's kind of the fun part of my life. I'll get back to hobbies eventually. Other than I really like to work out, right? That's why I do what I do.
Okay.
Uh, right? But what do I do? So, as a dietitian and a personal trainer, I help committed individuals to lose weight, remove their emotional eating tethers, reduce their disease inducing patterns, and live shame and guilt free lives, margarita in hand, having fun. And recently, I've actually stemmed that into working with small businesses as well. So that way they can, help their employees. COVID's number one reason why it occurred was, or to the people that it occurred to, were overweight and obesity, right? Let's curve that. Let's get you some better productivity and employees that love what they do again. And that's really, where my heart is, getting people back to living their life outside of a diet.
Nice, nice. I like that. Getting people to live their life outside of a diet. I want to raise my hand for that. let me let me ask you this. Because you said some things already that's piqued my interest, and I know I have a few questions, but how did you decide to pivot like you did to work with businesses? I think that's really interesting.
So I've worked with individuals pretty much the entire time I've been a dietitian. I was previously a dietitian in the Navy for 3 years. I left the Navy, I worked at some small facilities, like long-term care facilities here in Florida. And that was a blast. Let me tell you, working with people that aren't all the way there, it's amazing. It's so much fun. But I knew it just wasn't me. That wasn't where my heart is. I went back to the Naval Hospital I worked at, did the exact same job, but in a civilian position while I was in the reserves. And I just didn't feel like I could make as much of an impact because the government system is true. Everything you hear about the VA or any kind of government is that too many people and not enough workers, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
so I couldn't see them often. I couldn't see them often enough in order for them to get results. So they started doing things out in town, and I didn't like that. So that's why I decided to go into work on my own, because I could see them as often as they needed so they could get the results that they want. And as I was doing it and getting results for people, I was like, I want to help more people at once. I want to get people further along. And then as a business owner myself, and doing coaching courses with other coaches, and then I hire a coach, right, and I'm in a group program and I'm seeing all these other entrepreneurs and they're chugging their coffee or their energy drinks and they're pounding down cardful snacks, and I know they don't feel good about themselves, right? I'm like, okay, I need to start helping these people. Like, some of these people that I'm seeing are leagues ahead of me. Not that I'm comparing, but they actually have like a team of 15 to 20 people and they're still, drained all the time. And I'm like, this could be some simple, easy changes, get you down 15 pounds without you even having to count a macro or a single calorie. Like,
Wow.
I can help you get there. And that's when I decided that I really liked the small business angle too. So
I love it. I love it. So you mentioned that you with people, business owners, and they have teams. Tell us about your business. What role do you have in your business? Are you a solopreneur doing absolutely everything? And do you have a team? What's your business look like today?
yeah, that's a great question. So I would say I'm still a solopreneur because I don't have anybody on staff. However, I do outsource some things. I have somebody helping me with my email marketing, somebody helping me with my social media. And then I do have a coach that I work with that is helping me, better my mindset and, work on my skills from a business perspective. I'm a dietitian. We didn't learn about any of that when I was in school and college. I think now they've tweaked it a little bit and they maybe do a couple of those things due to things now, but back in 2004 to 2008 when I was in college, we didn't learn any of that. So
Right.
so those are the people that I utilize the most.
Okay, I like that. So, and that's often the entrepreneurial journey. You start on your own and then you start to outsource and get help. So that's brilliant. I like that setup. You recognize, according to what I'm hearing, and you can tell me if I'm hearing wrong, where you could use assistance and you brought it in. Too many entrepreneurs are scared to do that. They're like, I'm not going to pay somebody. I'll just stay up an extra 7 hours and do my email marketing. No. It's hard to grow that way. So I like what you're saying there. Before we get into other questions that I have for you, I want to just make sure that we can find you. So if someone wanted to find you and Fit and Fabulous, how would we find you? Do you have a website, phone number?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's leslieUrbas.com. So can't mess that up. It's my first and last name. I'm on every social platform as that, Leslie Urbas. The only one that's kind of messed up is Facebook. It's got my maiden name Fiala in there too. So that could throw people, but I'm the only Leslie Urbas really out there. I think there's one more, but not in this country, potentially. Anyways, yeah, I think I've Googled and there's somebody else. But even if you Google me on like the top 20 hits, you're supposed to Google your name. So you could Google me in there.
Nice.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm impressed by what's on there on the first page. However, I also run a Facebook group called Weight Loss and Wellbeing for High Performers, and you can click in there and get direct service from me. You can also just email me at leslie@leslieUrbas.com. So all good ways.
Love it. I'm going to tell you where you made one mistake. Can I do that? Can I be so bold?
Yeah.
If someone is listening to our podcast, they're going to say, I'm going to find Leslie Urbas, LESLYURBIS.com. And guess what?
You won't find me. Yeah.
So do me a favor. And I ask everybody to do this because, not everybody spells the same way. Spell out your website just in case they're listening and not watching.
Yeah, of course. So LESLIE, URB as in boy, AS as in Sam.com.
All right, because I want them to find you, especially when we're trying to lose weight. You said something that was interesting. You said, I like to work with committed people. Why did you use that word committed? Because
let's face it, we're like, I don't know when this podcast will air, but we're like a month away from the new year, right? And as soon as that comes around, everybody says, I want to lose weight, right? How many years have you said you want to lose weight? How many months have you said that? How many days have you said that? How many diets have you started? How many diets have you, not followed through on? How many days on day 3 is it like, oh, I did good for 3 days. Here's my chocolate patty, or whatever it may be, right? So you have to actually be willing to make the commitment. One of the things I hear from everybody when they get on a call with me is, I know what to do. I just need to get myself to do it. And I'm like, and how's that going for you so far? And that's when they're like, wow, she just kind of called me out. Yeah, I did call you out to find out if you're committed or not. Some people will be like, well, it's going good. Like, I'm getting the results I want. Oh, okay. So why are we on this phone call? Well, I'd still like to lose 15 pounds. And that's when I say, so are you really getting the results you want? Are you really doing what you say you want to do? So the thought process is there's a desire to make the commitment, right? Just like some people say they, want to go into business on their own, or they want to go get that degree, but they always have something that stops them. Nothing stops you but you. You either have to make the commitment and the choice to do it, or you allow everything else to play your life for you.
I love it. And you tied that right back to business. One of the key words to success is commitment, right? We can all talk about doing things, but until we actually are committed, it doesn't always work out that way. So it's weight loss and business. So you committed to starting a business, and here you are today. Really cool. How long have you been in business?
So I would say I started my business in December of 2019, but that was when I decided I was going to do it. I didn't have my first until June of 2020. So I call myself in business since June of 2020, because I feel like you're not really in business until you get that first client. So.
All right. That's the saying that I always say, you're not in business until you make your first sale.
Right.
But that time between when you conceptualize it, implement the sale, it still counts. So you know that. Kudos to you. Kudos to you. I love it. A couple of years in business, and you talked about why you're an expert in the field already. You actually have done it on multiple different levels, which is pretty cool. You said you were in the Navy. That's pretty impressive. And now you're doing it for business owners.
Yes.
So what made you, and you talked about it a little bit, but if you don't mind just sharing a little bit more, because I want to dig a little bit further. What made you take the leap to business ownership? Was it only to see more people, or was it other reasons that said, I'm going to do it as a business owner?
Yeah. So I knew in college I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Like when we would be in class, I could picture myself doing that, but it wasn't something that was normal for my family. And it would have been unacceptable potentially, because it takes a lot to be a business owner, right? You have to be willing to go a little bit in debt. You have to be willing to take on some credit and some other things that was not welcomed really in my family. And that's nothing against them. It's just something we didn't do. So I had zero experience. So I was too scared to jump that way. So my brain went, go with the most secure job, which is the military, because they really can't kick you out fast, right?
Gotcha.
So I was out in my mind. And again, I only spent 3 years there, but in 2018, which is 2019, when I left the Naval Hospital as a civilian, I'll admit that the moment I decided that I needed to do something for myself was when I dropped my kid off for daycare. I was that mom that had to be there exactly at the moment daycare opened. And it was one day that I got stuck in so much traffic. I got off at 5:30. It takes me 24 minutes to get from the Naval Hospital to the daycare. But there was so much traffic that day. It took me 57 minutes. So
Wow.
I was 3 minutes shy of getting a late fee. And when I walked in, the teacher said, "Oh, look, Lily, your mom's here. You were the first one here and the last one to leave." And my heart sank. Like I was like, that mom. Like I got into the car. She was in the back seat, teeny tiny. She was only like 6 months at the time, maybe 7. And I cried a little bit. And I was like, I'm going to get out of this car and I'm not going to show my daughter that I am crying whatsoever.
Oh.
And my husband was gone at the time. He was in, where was he at that time? Mississippi for 6 months. The ship was supposed to be here, but it wasn't done yet. So he was in Mississippi for 6 months. We saw him every other weekend, basically. So I was doing it all, running the show. And I am totally accepting of that since he's in the military. But that moment really got me like, I need to do something. I manifested a quick job from working at home. It was amazing, but it wasn't for me. And that's when I realized, like, I need to do something. I had been dabbling a little bit in Beachbody, and I knew it just wasn't my thing. Like, I'm not an MLM person. I don't want to build pyramids and all that kind of stuff. I want to use my degree and I want to help people. And so that's when I knew I needed to do something, but it took me a little while to take action. So I'd say it was a combination. Like, it had been a lifelong passion that I just kind of covered up because I didn't know how to start. And then, the tying in of having kids in that moment of pure and utter mom guilt took over me, and here I am. So
Gotcha. But awesome. So I love that story. And I like the fact that you had multiple reasons for starting a business. And that's probably what's going to continue to propel you to success beyond your wildest dreams, if you have wild dreams. But let me ask you this question. How do you define success? Everybody has a different explanation. What do you, or definition, how do you define it?
It's a great question. I've thought about this. I believe that success is doing better than you did yesterday.
Whoa, pause that for 1 second and say that one more time, because that was amazing.
I believe it's doing better than you did yesterday.
Wow. I love it. Now, can you elaborate?
Yeah, of course. You start a business, right? And you're like, oh my God, I need to have the email marketing and the amazing Instagram and the amazing Facebook, and I need to have this amazing website. And if you just get 1% better every day, reach out to somebody and have a conversation and see if they'll pop on a sales call with you, or better yet, learn something about your market, right? I think that's been my best thing, is to take it a step at a time.
I love it. I really love it. And it's what you're giving us is something that's not so, for want of a better word, unattainable, right? Everybody can have success based on what you're saying if they just improve over the prior day, right?
Correct.
So what do you do to make sure that you're successful on a daily basis? Can I ask that question?
Of course. So I have a check-in and check-out sheet in the morning from one of my coaches. It's 7 questions to prepare you for the day. It asks you what you need to forgive from yesterday. It'll ask you what you need to commit to. Ask you like what you need to put on the table. Like, these are my worries. I'm here on this piece of paper. Don't take them with you. There's a couple of other questions there. Things that you need to visualize, things you need to learn. And then the last question is, who do you need to be? Who do you need to show up as, right? There's one in there that I missed. I really can't remember, but I loved it. And I use it every day. And, you know, when I started, I was like, eventually I won't need this. And I'm still doing it 6 months later. And I'm like, man, how much has things I need to learn, the worries and sometimes the worry stays the same for multiple months. And then all of a sudden it flips, right? And so that's been my biggest thing. And then at the end of the day, coming back, did you say you were going to do what you were going to do? And if you didn't, what the heck was your excuse? So if there is that excuse, it's being better than that excuse the next day, right? Learn the excuse and then don't repeat it. And that's been really helpful. And I'll admit, I don't make excuses. That's one thing I've been really good at, is I don't make the excuses. If I say I'm going to do it, I do it. I've always been that way. I mean, I started working out consistently every morning at 5 a.m. when I was 16 years old, and I haven't missed a day unless I've had broken something or a C-section baby or anything like that. Like I've even worked out at 5 a.m. teaching a spin class when I had what do you call that throat thing? I can't even think of what that is, right? A strep throat. I didn't know I had strep throat. I didn't know I had fever. I didn't even have a thermometer in my house because it wasn't something I did when I was single. That'll tell you my level of commitment. If I say I'm going to do it, it's as good as done. You don't have to think that I would never follow through. So yeah, that the excuses isn't there, but it's been a good thing to learn my worries, the beliefs that I have to overcome, and then the new things that I need to learn, because there's so much to learn about being a business owner. And I think one of the biggest things is how much you have to internally change. So
yeah, it's a constant evolution. That's pretty impressive. I can't believe you wake up every morning by 5 o'clock to work out. Like,
well, to be quite honest, right now it's actually 3:30 in order to get things accomplished. Yeah.
Lord have mercy. Today is Marc's workout day. I slept an extra half an hour and said, I'm not doing it. I'm not committed yet, but I'm better than I used to be. So maybe even I'll go. Well, I'm not going to lie on this camera right now. I'll do it tomorrow. Let's go and talk about business a little bit more instead of my lack of commitment. What's one mistake you've made in your business journey that you'd like to share?
I would say starting with Facebook ads. I thought it could be easy, right? I'll just throw out these ads and get all these leads, and then I'll just close them and make $1 million, right? And that's how I started. I think I started in the wrong direction, but I learned quickly. It only took me like, I don't know, a month. But I did follow that up then with a bad coach, which I didn't know was bad. I got him from a referral from multiple people, but it was right before COVID that I hired him. And then during COVID, like when COVID first started, I'd only worked with him for like maybe 6 weeks. He was like, stop now. Don't sell high ticket offers. You'll never make it. With COVID, you're just going to go under. And I was like, well, you're kind of like not a motivating coach. And I still believe that I can do this. So I'd like to end this and potentially like not pay next month, maybe get some money back. So we agreed to that. And I learned very quickly to make mistakes and not take them personally, right? I really liked a lot of my, coaches and things like that. We don't fail unless we quit. If we quit, then we failed because we've allowed that to be the end. But it's not a failure. It's a teaching. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try this.
I like that. I like that. So you said a couple of things that were really powerful. So you made a mistake pretty quickly and early on, Facebook ads, but you didn't, for want of a better phrase, wallow in the mistake. You learned, you adjusted. You made another mistake. I asked you for one. You were generous and gave me two. You hired a coach that didn't fit your eye. You didn't wallow in that mistake. You adjusted. You moved away. So I like the lesson you're giving us that you've implied. When we make mistakes, it's not terrible as long as we can adjust and move away. Is that what you say? Did I summarize that properly?
Yes, for sure.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that because sometimes we can be bullheaded in our mistakes and just keep plugging forward. And I tell you, those Facebook ads will suck you dry. Trust me, I know. I've done that one too. I'm in the middle of one right now, but it's okay. I'm learning as I go. So we learn from our mistakes. Thanks for sharing that. You've mentioned coaches. You told me about a bad one. You told me you have one currently. So you have mixed stories for coaches. So I'm going to ask you this question. How have your coaches contributed to your success? Do you think it's important to have one?
I do think it's important to have one. I really do. And I always give the saying of Tom Brady. That man, look at him. I mean, he's in his 40s playing football and still, winning, championships. If you could focus on him for a second and see and really think you're like, oh, he's just amazing. Count how many coaches he has. I bet you if Tom Brady would come forward with it, he'd probably have 15 coaches. A coach for nutrition, a coach for training, a coach for this, a coach for that, right? Maybe even a coach that buys him clothes. Maybe Giselle does it, but you don't know, right? And people get really frustrated sometimes when I say Tom Brady, but you can't doubt his greatness and his ability to be able to close the mechanism, as Kevin Costner says in the whatever that movie is. I can't think of the baseball movie. Anyway, so
Okay.
where he shuts that mechanism down. Gosh, for the love of the game. It's like, I
Okay.
know it, for the love of the game. So I believe that we stop ourselves, right? Our subconscious mind stops us seeing what it is we need to do, because that's scary, right? It's unknown to us. It's not going to allow us to get there. So I hired my first coach as a strategic move to learn how to sell, because I was not privileged to sales information and grew up in a house where, majority of things I heard was, they just want your money. They don't really care about you, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Even though my dad did sell real estate for a while, and technically he's a salesman because he was a baseball coach, but he didn't say so much as my mom did, I guess. But anyway, so I hired that as my first coach, and he was really helpful. And then my second coach kind of helps me a little bit more because they were from healthcare perspective, and it was good to take on a dietitian role in what they were doing. And then my next coach, I knew I was doing great. I had propelling myself, I had getting myself forward, but I would hit a wall and not get the wall. I don't understand. So I knew it was the 6 inches between my ears. It's not a process. It's not changing something. It's my brain. So that's when I learned a lot about mindset coaches and the subconscious mind and all that good stuff. And I'm working now with a coach that really deals with that. Still does processes and teaches you some marketing strategies and stuff like that. Very helpful, kind of all angles. But the focus is retraining your subconscious brain and really focusing on what is the cause of this? And sometimes it's the cause is you, right? Or majority of the time the cause is you, right? It's your own
Mm-hmm.
brain. You're getting yourself the results, and it's coming clear of that. And I think it's been the most helpful that I've done. I started that at the end of May of this year. And I can just see now just how many things have become clear in my mind. And that's where I think it's helpful. I still have a lot of blocks and things I go through to get there, but it was 35 years before I actually learned that I needed to think clearly and change my mind. So in comparison to 6 months, I got
Not bad.
a while longer to catch up. So that's okay.
Not bad. Awesome. Awesome. I loved your illustration. I don't love the fact that you mentioned Tom Brady.
I know most people don't they really dislike Tom Brady, especially.
Oh my goodness, especially a New York Giants fan. But okay. At least we beat Tom and all his coaches. Anyway, I won't go there. Tom, there's something to be said about what you mentioned. And it's true. I like what you said too, because it's about multiple, a coach can fit your eye for a time or fill a need. And then you might find a different coach for a different need, right? No coach is going to be ubiquitous and cover absolutely everything that you need. That doesn't work that way. So you find what fits. And I love the fact that that you shared how quickly you're able to get what you need. If you have to pivot, you pivot. That makes you pretty dynamic. That's awesome. I like to hear that. What do you think is the single most important quality needed to be a successful business owner?
I'd say the ability to accept failure, meaning that happened, move on. I was raised Catholic, so I was raised in guilt. When things go awry, I guilt myself, like, oh, you should have done better, you should have done X, Y, or Z. And upon learning through coaches, I realized mistakes aren't meant to be there to shame and guilt you. They're meant for you to be like, oh, okay, learn, accept, go to the next step. And I'd really have to say that's really been what it is learning that. I learned a lot about the consciousness scale, the levels of consciousness recently, and I processed, so much of my life was spent in very low levels of shame and guilt just from my Catholic upbringing. And again, I'm not shaming the Catholic religion or anything. It's just we were very, very much taught in school shame and guilt as the way to kind of live. And so that's carried on with me. And until somebody pointed it out, I would have never noticed. So.
Gotcha. I like that. So the ability to accept that's important. Absolutely. If you were to give advice to somebody who were new in business, would that be the advice, or would you give them something else as well?
I think my advice is, if you're brand new in business, I would actually say write down where you want to be, not where you think you can be, where you want to be. So we all think like, okay, so maybe in the first year I could make like 25,000. That would be great, right? Like literally write down what your highest goal is, what you see, the thing that you think is unattainable, write that down. And then once you have that down, figure out who is where that picture is and only go for that coach or that thing that's going to be where that picture is, right? We're all like, okay, well, I won't be able to afford that, whatever, let me downplay myself to this low level. And I realized quickly, like, well, that person can only get you to where they are, because if they were where they wanted to be, potentially they'd be up, right? I think that was one of the best things that I've learned is shoot for the moon instead, right? Don't shoot for, the house down.
Gotcha. I like that. There's an expression about that, right? Aim for the moon. You might just hit a star or something like that.
Yeah, you land among the stars.
Yeah, I like that. That's really cool. That's a good piece of advice for new owners. And you put it quite beautifully, quite honestly. You had me daydreaming a little bit, because I was just in a different podcast, actually with another Florida gentleman. He was talking about setting goals. And he said, if you can create a goal and you know exactly how you're going to hit it, then your goal isn't big enough. It needs to be bigger than you. And then you'll strive for more. It was well done. I think maybe Florida has the secret to success down there. So that's awesome. Awesome. I'm going to ask you one final question, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
If you could go right before you started your business, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say go for the quantum leap.
Okay. And what do you mean by that?
So I read a book, it's called U Squared, and it's a book about quantum leaps and about how you should be making changes that are uncomfortable. You should get used to being uncomfortable. You should be used to taking that leap. You should get yourself out of the next thing I'm going to do is build, I sold a $5 sale. Let me go to a $10 sale, right? Instead of taking building blocks, go from nothing to everything. And I think that I'm so linear that I'm like, okay, build to build to build to build. And now instead I'm like, okay, let's just jump it and take a quantum leap and see where I go wrong or where I go right, and then learn and course correct to get myself to where I want to go instead of, 20 years from now, right? I mean, Amazon, look at how fast that sucker took off, right? But other businesses are, a little bit more struggling. So use them. Who says you can't be Amazon?
Yeah, good. I like it. Go for the quantum leap. Nice, nice. And that's what you've done so far, huh?
I'd like to say so. My husband, me and I'm like, you keep your thoughts to yourself, honey. I'll be over here.
All right now. Make it happen. Make it happen. That's awesome. Hey, I want to thank you so much for your time and sharing some of your gems. Before I let you go, I just want to ask you one other question, if you don't mind. I know I was going to stop there, but if you don't mind, just one more.
Yeah, go for
And
it.
this one is not typical that I typically ask, but you said that you're a mom of two, right? And you're running a business, you're married. How do you juggle everything and still be successful in your business?
That's great. I've learned help. That's one of the things. I always prided myself on doing it all. And there was one day that I was cleaning our house and I was like, I should be on a sales call instead of cleaning this house. So the first thing I did, house cleaner that comes in occasionally. Can't say I still don't vacuum up all times. My kids are, 1 and 3. So there's plenty of crumbs on our floor as we speak. And that's not normal for my house. That was one of the things I did, was get help there. And that's when I also started to outsource for my business. Some of the things, like, I just can't do those. I'd say the other thing is, in order to keep the juggling, is allowing yourself to accept imperfection. And I've been a perfectionist most of my life. My house was perfect. If you walked into my house and you'd never been here, you wouldn't have even seen trash in the trash can. Like, make it look like I don't live in the house when you come in, right? Perfectionist level. And now I'm just not that way anymore. There were dishes in the sink from my kids' breakfast up until about 15 minutes before we podcast, and it's well into the middle of the day. That never would have flown before. So allowing yourself to have the imperfection, allowing yourself to be not that exactly things aligned. I got laundry that's dried, that's just sitting on the bed waiting to be folded. And I'll get to that,
After the podcast, right?
Right. I think it's just allowing yourself that. And that's really what it is. And I think moms really put a lot of pressure on themselves. And as a military wife, I just can't. If I were to do that, like, I would not have no fun. I would definitely not smile as much, and my kids wouldn't, have this mom that will, turn on music and dance with them for 20 minutes instead of worry about some of the other stuff. It'll get done, right? Either way it has to, or eventually you'll have a no way to eat off, or nothing to eat off of. So you'll get somewhere.
Love it, love it, love it. I just wanted to bring that up because you're a mompreneur, and we have a lot of mompreneurs entering the workforce, and it can be possible. You're living proof of it. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Hey, I want to thank you for giving us your time and getting us a little insight into your journey. We look forward to seeing your continued journey to success.
Thanks.